Welcome to our presentation. Today you will hear about an innovative solar cooker lending program that offers solar ovens and educational resources to encourage community sharing. Hello, my name is Jennifer Gasser. Mary Buchanek and I are the co-founders of the Solar Education Project. We are thrilled to be a part of this dynamic and collaborative team, and we invite you to envision how this program can work in your community. We are pleased to be here today, along with Lorena Hegedus and Nate Dempsey from the Hubbard Public Library, located in Hubbard, Ohio, in the U.S. Our local library uses their partnerships to connect patrons with services and resources, acting as a hub for community programs. Lorena is the director of the library and responsible for the vision of the solar oven lending program, while Nate is the adult services librarian. He extended the partnership by encouraging school district and teacher participation. We are happy to introduce Lorena and the lending program.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's an honor and a delight to be presenting with you, Mary and Nate today on this topic that has the potential of such impact on so many in our little corner of the world and ripples far beyond our community. We want to bring to this audience not just the concept of lending solar ovens, but also how it incubated from an idea to actual implementation. With perseverance, creativity, and collaboration, anyone can tailor what we've done and make it work for their community. I'm going to explain my thought process and why it made sense for a concept like this to begin with the library, which brings us to the mission of Hubbard Public Library. Hubbard Public Library provides free and easy access to information, ideas, books, and technologies that enrich, educate, and empower the individuals of our diverse community. That's what we do. How do we do it? One way is through the traditional services we provide. A few of these services include providing reference, home delivery where we take resources to those who can't get to the library, programs for children, teens, and adults that are educational and recreational, notarizing, and so much more. The second half of how we complete our mission is through our collection. Hubbard Public Library provides the traditional physical lending materials consisting of books, print, and AV materials, which everyone immediately connects with library lending and services. Physical resources have expanded to include digital collections of books, magazines, movies, and audiobooks. Hubbard Public Library also provides digital collections of educational databases for patrons to use for information or in-depth research projects. The mission and methods of delivery of resources coincides with global goals of libraries which fall under the umbrella of the International Federation of Library Associations and Institutions. These goals include ensuring access to information and resources that create literate, participative societies where citizens are stakeholders, not just bystanders. Minimizing and bridging inequities in society. Ensuring access to technologies that allow for the first two goals. And ultimately, the library is committed to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. More information on these goals can be found at ifla.org. This leads us to the remainder of the Hubbard Public Library collection, which includes our non-traditional items for lending, fondly referred to as our Library of Things. In this collection, we house items including ukuleles, exercise equipment, digital devices such as hotspots, and our solar ovens. It's these items, specifically the solar ovens, that truly exemplify the goals of global impact, sustainability, and collaboration of the IFLA, to which Hubbard Public Library wholeheartedly ascribes. So, where did this idea of lending solar ovens begin? Back in the summer of 2016, I collaborated with some community members in starting a local farm and vendor market, which took place in the parking lot of the city administration building. I had hoped the library could host the market, but logistics made the city lot a better venue. So it began. Several of the library staff and I took turns manning the library booth each week. If you look closely at the picture on the right side of this slide, you can see the library tent the second from the right with a white top. And in both photos, in the foreground, you see the solar ovens. This is where I first became aware of and interested in the concept of solar cooking and came in contact with Jennifer and Mary, the solar education project ladies, as I called them. The seed of an idea was planted in my brain. I must admit, it sat dormant for a while as I listened and learned more about how the ovens worked, and I observed for myself Mary and Jennifer's mission to educate people on sustainable energy concepts that folks could actually use and from which our community could benefit. After a couple years, yes, as you can see, this project has been many years in the making. So after a couple years of sitting in the back of my mind, what truly caused the lending idea to germinate was in mid-2019 when Mary and Jennifer began meeting at the library with a university student intern who was working with them to create a curriculum to guide teachers in the use of the ovens in the classroom. I spoke to Mary and Jennifer more earnestly about the solar education project and shared with them that I believed the library would be a great place to centralize access to the ovens and any periphery materials. If we could generate a lending program, we would minimize the barriers and enable more people to have the opportunity to learn about and use them. Teachers wouldn't need to be concerned with acquiring the ovens or housing them. The library would fill the place it always does, make more materials more available for people to borrow when they're needed and wanted, without the overhead considerations for the patron. The next discussions revolved around what the library would have to take on in order for this to happen. We knew we absolutely couldn't simply purchase an oven, put it on the shelves, and expect folks to borrow it, know how to operate it, and return it in proper condition without putting a lot of forethought into this process. Most obviously, the cost of the oven itself is substantial, and we needed to consider partners and funding sources that would offset the library's financial outlay. We had to consider which ovens would be the most user-friendly, and once we acquired an oven or two, how would we maintain them? How would we ensure patrons returned them clean and operable? And if the ovens required replacement of damaged parts or peripheral equipment, how would we sustain the costs? Thankfully, our main partnership with the Solar Education Project helped with many of these questions, advising and guiding with purchases, maintenance suggestions, and even the training. Once we had the library end of these considerations hammered out, we worked on drafting the patron side of the borrowing. This included many of the procedural logistics of how a patron would check out the ovens for borrowing, the forms they needed to be responsible for in handling of the ovens, conditions to be met upon returning the oven to the library to ensure all the parts were intact and operating, and of course, any basic use and safety training. The Solar Education Project was instrumental in creating training videos for use and care, which are posted on the library website and used as part of the checkout process to ensure patrons are educated on appropriate use and handling of the ovens. Finally, in 2020, some funding pieces fell into place. The first grant we applied for and received and enabled the purchase of an oven was from Constellation Energy. What a thrill to see our dreams, our plans, and our work become a reality. We were grateful to also receive subsequent grants from GoSun for the second oven, as well as Roger Haynes and our very own Solar Education Project for the third oven. The fourth grant came from our local Rotary, an organization whose mission of providing service and advancing world understanding completely aligns with the Hubbard Public Library and the Solar Education Project's vision of this entire project. This grant was directed toward funding the solar suitcase, which you'll see a bit more of in a few slides. With procedures for lending and the ovens in place, we could now begin educating the library staff on the use of the ovens, generate awareness, and create excitement that would assist with promoting the ovens to our entire community. Early last year, Jennifer and Mary hosted an in-service training for the library staff. You see a photo of that here. Then later in the year, one sunny afternoon, they came and baked some bread outside, which initiated a lot of interest, especially when the patrons could actually sample freshly baked bread. Later on in the summer, The library staff also used the ovens to make some popcorn for an outdoor summer reading program. We were off and running.
So Cynthia put that grant in, and we were awarded the All-American Sun Oven, our first solar cooker. And then the Solar Sisters, who are floating around here, also graciously donated a couple of other solar cookers, the Haynes 1, I believe, and the Go Sun Sport, which we have right here and right back there respectively. And so that's how our solar lending program kind of took off. What we are doing to support it right now, probably our main focus is working with the Hubbard schools. I contacted Mr. Ray Solomon, who's the superintendent of the schools, and said, here's what we're doing. We have these solar cookers, and we're going to be getting a solar suitcase. And we were thinking this would be an awesome project to team up with the schools to basically further STEM education. And Mr. Solomon got back to me, said it sounded like a magnificent idea. And so sometime in August, the plan is for me, Lorena, Solar Sisters and such to get together with Mr. Solomon and his curriculum director and a couple of other people and see what we can work out for putting together solar cooker related STEM education with the Hubbard schools.
Once the community was engaged, it was time to generate local school involvement. Just before school resumes each year in late August, some of my team and I are always invited by the superintendent to meet with his administrative team to discuss new programming, materials, and general collaboration between the school and the library. This past August was the perfect opportunity to showcase the solar oven lending program and to unveil the solar suitcase that I mentioned a few slides back. This brilliant yellow case that you see pictured here, provided by the Hubbard Rotary Foundation grant, is packed full of materials, equipment, and resources for teachers to use with the solar oven to create endless cross-curricular classroom experiences with their students. The book shown to the left of the suitcase is the complete curriculum for classroom use created by Mary Buchanek of the Solar Education Project. Next, we'd like to share a couple statements from the Hubbard School Superintendent and one of the consumer science teachers.
We at the Hubbard Exempted Village School District are so thankful to have such a close working relationship with Hubbard Public Library. Through our partnership, our students have the opportunity to participate in the Solar Education Project, which provides them with a better understanding of nature and the role of energy in our world through the use of the library's solar cooker lending program.
Wonderful. We're so glad that this resource was available to you through the lending program, that you can have it in your classroom at no expense because you're able to borrow it.
And thank you for allowing us to borrow all of this equipment, because it was something that I had never thought of doing. And by showing students, what can be done, a lot of them may decide to also borrow it on their own from the library as well.
As we move through 2022 and beyond, our goals will focus on continuing to promote the ovens in a way that our community will understand the ovens are a sustainable energy source to be used both educationally and recreationally. We will continue to explore what might prevent someone from borrowing an oven and ways we can make the ovens more accessible to more people. Targeting problems and potential demographic gaps often come with data collection. At this time, I will turn this over to Mary, who will address data collection that has happened up until this point.
Thank you, Lorena. This third goal is important for both Hubbard Public Library and Solar Education Project. Pertinent and relevant data is essential for program improvement and informed decision-making. Basic data is relatively easy to collect. When are the ovens being borrowed, how often, and which ones? I'll share those preliminary numbers shortly. Expanded data collection is more challenging. It requires the voluntary cooperation of patrons to participate in a survey. Therefore, the survey must be convenient to take, respectful of patrons' time, and yield valuable information. We continue to work together to formulate this important process. But now let me share the basic data that we do have to date. From our basic data collection covering June to November of 2021, this first graph shows demand for ovens greatest in October. Given the fact that October is not a prime solar cooking month in our climate in Ohio, this may seem odd until you factor in that this corresponds to the beginning of the school year. These numbers reflect ovens borrowed by teachers in the Hubbard schools, a direct result of the outreach efforts Nate discussed earlier. The second graph shows the number of times each oven has been borrowed over the 6-month period. And lastly, tracking school use, this graph shows that 179 students had extended access to borrowed ovens in their classrooms because of this program. Interestingly, the ovens were integrated into various classes and disciplines: middle school STEM, high school principles of food, personal finance, consumer science, and environmental science. The ovens are truly tools for cross-curricular education.
This is how one idea led to a one-of-a-kind program. Together, we can meet our missions and share our vision to educate and empower communities across the globe. As entrepreneurs, manufacturers, and enthusiasts, we regularly advocate for sustainable communities through solar cooking. Plant the seed with your lending library today. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Locate your local library or community center. Connect with a funding source or service organization with shared goals. And stay involved. Be connected and be a resource. Make 2022 the year of solar cooking discovery in your hometown. Show your support for this important program. Visit our website today.
Thank you to Consol Food for the opportunity to present today. Contact us with questions or potential interest. We look forward to hearing from you.